So, this video was kind of brought on by, I guess you could say, like, I've been perusing here on YouTube, seeing all the reactions to Epic Universe, which I'm very excited about for, well, let's be real, I'm only excited for the Universal Monsters, or as it's called, Dark Universe. But I have seen a lot of videos and a lot of, like, I guess you could say, like, unrelenting hate for, so a lot of unrelenting hate for, what's been, there's a lot of, like, fans, or I dare call them fans, a lot of it has been mad for multiple reasons, and I just kind of wanted to do this video as more like a, in my like I did with my Bullseye videos, just like a relax kind of thing. Now, I'm not going to name anyone with these videos, because there's been a few. But the one, but I'm just going to have some talking points here and there, and I don't normally do these videos, so you'll have to excuse me on that. But yeah, so let's talk about, like, some of the problems people are having with the Dark Universe, the new park that's going to be over at Epic Universe. The first one being is that no one's excited for the, like, people are saying, like, the redesigns suck. And to which I'm like, yeah, they needed to be updated for a multitude of reasons. One being likenesses. Likenesses cost a lot. And yeah, you could say Universal has that money, but, like, you gotta keep paying for those likenesses in some points. And I think the other reason as to why they updated, and a more personal reason, is that by 2027, I believe, it's either 2026 or 2027, Frankenstein and Dracula will both be in the public domain. Those two movies will be in the public domain. And I think much like what they were doing with Halloween Horror Nights, was that they wanted to have, like, their own stamp on those monsters, their own personal stamp and designs on those monsters, personally. Also, side note, if you, like, I know I talked about, like, a big complaint about, like, a public domain doesn't just automatically equal horror, like with Winnie the Pooh and, you know, Peter Pan and especially Steamboat Willie. The difference here is that, well, they're already horror, so, you know, when those movies go... And they're technically... You can make the argument that Frankenstein and Dracula are already in the public domain, but I'm talking like Lugosi and Karloff's Dracula and Frankenstein movies will be public domain, so by all intents and purposes, go nuts on those if you want to make those darker horror movies. But the thing of it is like, people are mad about a lot of those are mad about these designs for a multitude... Like, the redesigns. And while I do have my reservations for... Dracula looks fine. He actually kind of reminds me of the Van Helsing Dracula. Wolfman, the one I wasn't cool with was Wolfman, and I'm nervous about how they're going to do Creature from the Black Lagoon, because that's the easiest one to fuck up. And because it's like, that design is so perfect, from Millicent Patrick. Yeah, that design is so perfect that it's so easy to fuck up, too. So I'm curious, I'm worried about that one. But the thing of it is that I'm just kind of happy that they've updated them and kind of kept that kind of horror element. There was a part of me that was genuinely worried that they were going to tone them down. But it's kind of clear from what I saw of Frankenstein, the Frankenstein monster especially, is that they don't look like they're toning them down. They're making them more... Like, yes, they are updating them, and I think one of the reasons why people are mad is, like, it's not my Universal monsters, and, you know, people are like, oh, well, these classic monsters never got updated, and I'm like, oh, you were being serious. I'm sorry. Are you H.G. Wells? Are you Bram Stoker? Are you Mary Shelley? No? You're not? You're not? You're not? Well, these monsters have always been updated. Hell, the movies we've seen that these classic monster movies have been that have been watched by millions of people aren't the original versions. Hell, these movies get like, people treat the like some people are acting like these movies have never been updated for audiences, for better or for worse in some cases, I will acknowledge. Looking at you, Tom Cruise mummy. And yeah. Now the other the other reason, like, people are like, that's the thing. Actually, let's keep on this for a bit. The thing of it is that these monsters get updated a lot. Hell, you saw the Halloween Horror Nights one, and people are saying, oh, that's just overly edgy. I'm like, have you seen Halloween Horror Nights as of late? They're always edgy. I don't mind the design. Hell, I'm happy that the Universal monsters have been kind of a prerogative. I think that's the right word. A prerogative for Universal Studios in recent years. Like, it feels like since, I would say, even though Dark Universe failed, it's been kind of a prerogative for them to really bring them out. Would you prefer not getting anything? Because there was a long period of time at Universal Studios where they just wanted to sweep the Universal monsters under the rug. Hell, even at Halloween Horror Nights, when they would occasionally have the Universal monsters, they would do very minimal effort on those houses. So I, for one, am thankful that the board at Universal Studios, and by the way, I'm not saying this as a shill, or I've heard the term pixie duster, which I'm like, I've never heard that word, and I never want to hear it again, because that's goddamn ridiculous. I say this as, even though I'm a fan of Universal more than I am Disney, and it's for the reasons of Universal, and it's not because, like, oh, Universal Studios listens to their fans and whatnot. It's more along the lines of, Universal Studios just has more things I want. That's really what it is. Disney has become so, and I'm not going to use the word woke. It's not the word woke. Disney has, the reason why I'm more Universal than Disney is because Disney has made a lot of poor park decisions, looking at you, Disney Genie, that have made me go bleh. Like a lot of the Chapek years, and now the new Iger years, have really made me go yikes. Especially what they've done with their parks, and very minimal effort being put into other media as well. I'm not saying like Disney went woke. I never said that. I've never believed that either. Here's the thing. If the internet was more prevalent in the 90s, you would hear like Disney's gone SJW, or whatever word they would probably use in the 90s. For having Mulan and other movies. Like, I guarantee you that if the internet was more prevalent, people would be saying, oh, look at this, an Asian character and she's female. You would definitely, don't tell me otherwise. Do not tell me otherwise. That's exactly what would happen. But getting back on track, getting back to my original point, is the reason I'm very happy with Universal Studios having this major prerogative to really get the Universal monsters out. Even after Dark Universe failed, like even after the Dark Universe collapsed instantly, they could have easily just shut the door and been like, nope, no more Universal monsters. They were like, okay, are we going to cancel the Universal monsters? Oh, we're not? We're going to keep going? Yeah, let's keep going. Let's just change the game plan real quick. And that's what they did. They started with Invisible Man. They did a lot of that. And some people are saying like, oh, you know, people like Disney, you know, people like Universal, because Universal didn't go woke. Like, Universal is totally woke because they have a female, you know, Frankenstein now. And I'm like, they didn't gender swap the character. It's the granddaughter of Frankenstein. Do you know the lore? Let's actually unpack that real quick. Universal Studios has one thing in the parks that I think they've arguably, and this is debatable, but personally I believe that they have done a better job at explaining park lore than Disney ever did. You see, Universal Studios has this amazing thing where they like to make the parks have lore to them. That's how we got, like, you know, what's that fucking squirrel's name? Earl the Squirrel. Earl the Squirrel, Halloween Horror Nights has an extensive lore to it, and mythology to it, and a whole universe behind it. And also Lost Continent. And I feel like that's the idea for Dark Universe, and why they called it Dark Universe. Although I will say, I really do hope they call it Universal Monsters Dark Universe, but I digress. The reason why I think they called it Dark Universe and are building a lot of lore behind it, and making it the designs that they do, is because Universal Studios is really obsessed. I don't know who it is, but they really like taking and making a mythology out of something. That was a big thing in Lost Continent and Islands of Adventure as well, where originally it was like all these worlds that were connected to the islands, and they were all based on stories. Although with Lost Continent possibly leaving for Legend of Zelda, that point might be moot. Also, I've never like. That's the thing I think that what really is kind of like why I'm most okay with this whole Dark Universe thing. A, because they own the IP, they might as well fucking use it somehow because they ain't gonna use it in a movie. The other reason is because they want to build a lore behind this universe, behind this story. They can't really do that with the other 3 IPs in the like they put so much in Celestial Park at Epic Universe, which is going to be the center point for all these parks. But they can't really build a lot of lore behind these already these major IPs. They can't really stick much, like with the Island of Berk. Although I have heard it is supposed to be in the like there's a story in that universe. But with Harry Potter and Nintendo, they can't really do much, so they can easily focus their efforts on this and do that. That's why I think the major thing with the reimagining is because they wanted to have they wanted to establish they wanted to plant their own flag in this universe and be like, yeah. Although I will say I was kind of hoping they would just migrate the character designs from the Halloween Horror Nights Universal Monsters and migrate them over to Dark Universe. I thought that was the idea, but whatever. Also, there's probably and I know some people are like, oh, why they're not keeping the atmosphere and they're making it all edgy. I'm like, I don't see that. It looks like, and every report I've seen is like they're trying to keep the atmosphere and gothic tone to it. Yes, both rides, the Wolfman ride and the Castle Frankenstein ride, will both be pretty extreme, but that's kind of what they've been doing for a while, is that Universal Studios has been trying their best to migrate away from screens and make these more intense rides. So, yeah. I know some people have kind of talked about why didn't they make a ride like Haunted Mansion or whatever, and I'm like, while I would have liked a Haunted Mansion-esque ride with Universal Monsters would be kind of baller, I kind of knew that wasn't going to happen. I kind of expected this to be the thing, and the reason why I'm not angry about it is because by all sounds of the ride that they're building for the Castle Frankenstein ride, because the Wolfman ride is supposed to be a coaster. The reason why the Castle, and I'm going to talk about the Castle Frankenstein ride, is because they're kind of taking the feel of the Harry Potter Forbidden Journey ride, which I'm kind of worried about because that ride always makes me sick. And putting it with this style for the Castle Frank, so we'll still get there's a good chance we're going to get that gothic feel, but a little more intensity to it too. The ride's not out yet, so we don't know. The Wolfman ride, I imagine, is probably going to have some aesthetics to it too, and that's what I think also what I love about Universal Studios is because there's, especially with the Mummy and whatnot, it's a dark ride / coaster. I love that. It's the same thing with Velocicoaster, where they're not animatronic, they're static, statues. I could have just fucking said statues. But they're there, and if you're moving so fast, they almost look alive, and they just kind of add this level of atmosphere to the park. So I imagine the Castle Frankenstein ride is probably going to be like that. Can't really speak on the Wolfman ride, but yeah. So, yeah, I'm not saying this is a shill for Universal Studios. There's a lot at Universal Studios I don't like, and I will call bullshit on it, and then shenanigans every time. If you've ridden Fast and Furious Supercharged, you know what I mean. It's not just that ride. There's a few others. Also, I'm not the biggest Harry Potter guy. Those of you who have been around for a while, you guys know that I am in no way a Harry Potter fan. And while I've gotten on those rides, and to admittedly they're good, I have no emotional connection to them. In fact, I would dare argue that they have kind of overblown the Harry Potter thing, but I don't hate it because that gives them money to do things I like. The universe, Dark Universe. So if I have to deal with people going Expecto Patrono or biggest dickus or whatever, waving sticks around, I will just so I can get my Universal Monster ride. I'll do it. I will gladly be like, yeah, whatever. Avada, Abracadabra, whatever. Also, if you're a Harry Potter fan, I apologize. I apologize. I apologize for that joke. I appreciate you all because your money funnels into things I really like. So, thank you. It's a symbiotic relationship we got going here. But yeah, all in all, the whole thing with the Universal monsters and saying like, the Universal monsters are too, being too wimpified or something like that. I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's the point there, Jack. But the thing of it is that these creatures are always updated, and that's the thing, is like they've always been updated. Hell, they've been updated since the first movies. Like, hell, the original Dracula wasn't really based on the book, it was more based on the Broadway play. So, yeah, these stories have been retold, and it's just another retelling. And I'm sure, like, not too far from now, we will get another retelling of these monsters. And yes, while these movies are great, and this is one of my favorite fandoms of all time, I have all the collections, by the way. I just pulled this one out to prove a point. And Universal Monsters is always a fandom I love, like a media I love and will go back to. I will watch these movies, these original films whenever, and I will talk your head off about these films. Most of you know that by now. Most of my longtime subscribers will know that by now. But, yeah, this is, it's just kind of what it is. And I'm not saying, like, it is what it is. I'm saying, like, they've always been updated. They're always going to be updated. And if you want to live in the past, that might close your... And while those movies are good, you can't touch those original movies, you kind of close yourself off from amazing reimaginings of these stories. I mean, Invisible Man was a great one, and I'm very excited for what Leigh Whannell will do next with The Wolfman, which is coming later this year. And I'm one of those proponents who actually liked Last Voyage of the Demeter. I really liked that movie. I know, like, it didn't do well, but, like, I really loved it. And I'm excited for Abigail. That's another Universal monster movie. It's a Dracula's Daughter movie without saying it's a Dracula's Daughter movie. But yeah, I'm excited for that movie in about, I think, April. So 2 months. But yeah. So, while there are some designs of those monsters I really don't like, especially Wolfman, I do not like the Wolfman design, and we haven't seen what Creature... I'm nervous about Creature, I'm hoping, my boy the Invisible Man is in here in some capacity. I am always on the optimistic side, and I will always be on the optimistic and wait and see. Because we don't know. And also, like, I have been the proponent of, change is good, because it doesn't damage what was before. Although in some movies you could make the argument that it does damage the original thing. That's a discussion for another time. But yeah, so I know this is kind of a long video, and I'm sorry, but like, it's just like shit. Like it's just kind of like all this shit was just kind of like on my chest, and I was like, I'll do a video getting it off. So I don't know how many people are going to be curious about this video, but yeah, personally, I'm excited for Dark Universe because again, it could have never happened. That's the other thing, is like, that thing could have never happened at all. They could have looked at, Universal could have easily looked at, the failure that was the Mummy, the Tom Cruise Mummy movie, and went, no more, not even a part. But instead, they took the initiative to make the Universal monsters prevalent. Like, it's not just in movies, it's merchandise. They have gone ham on merchandise with Universal Monsters. They have wanted to remind you, this is the thing that built our studio. This is the thing that literally kept us from falling apart, and this is the thing that started everything. So, they will update it, and as long as they remind people and keep that kind of spark alive that will make people go back to those original movies, yeah, then, yeah, that will always happen. That will always be a thing that I will appreciate. Is the when a studio remembers the things that they again, there was a long period, and I do stress long period, where they didn't want to acknowledge the Universal monsters. They didn't want to do anything. It was like speaking Voldemort. And again, like, a lot of it came from, hey, Harry Potter's our hot shit at the park, and I get that. But now, like, even because again, all of this could have been for naught. Like, all of this could have never existed. I never once thought we would get a Universal Monster park in any capacity. And if it is, like, you know, if the designs don't look good, and again, these designs could change, I should mention. But yeah, I am more than willing to be happy with what I have. I will always acknowledge that. So yeah. Anyway, there you go, guys. I'm sorry this video went long. But yeah. Anyway, you guys tell me in the comments below what you guys think. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in Multiverse.